fight like a roaring fight, crypto and dreams under stadium lights, sweat and fire, hearts ignite. Evening sports buffet, we'll let the Ginch replay. Highlights, wild scores collide, it's a riot live tonight. Blades drawn, bold on the chalkboard slate, rivals clash, it's a heavyweight fate. Every second pounding, can't wait. Evening sports buffet, with the Ginch replay. Highlights, wild scores.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the balmy Northeast. Here on the Cole County Entertainment Network, another edition of the Early Evening Sports Puppet with the Ginch. I am Sid Ginch right now. Some breaking news. Well, it's not breaking news anymore. Thanks to the Ginch Quartet there. But welcome. Coming up at 7:30, God willing, I had to reschedule him. Price Carter covers the Kansas City Chiefs. At Price Carter on the Twitter machine. Draft analyst, podcast host at Arrowhead Addict. Chiefs film at FTN Fantasy, hashtag GBR. I've got questions about my Chiefs that I need answered. He's in the thick of it, obviously. I've got my opinions. But welcome. Again, breaking news in the last couple hours. University of Michigan has fired Sharon Moore for an inappropriate relationship with a staffer. University investigation found credible evidence he was engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Reported by Pete Thamel, Dan Wetzel, and Adam Schefter of Espen. Athletic Director Ward Manuel said in a statement Wednesday, this conduct constitutes a clear violation of university policy, and UM maintains zero tolerance for such behavior. Biff Poggi was named interim head coach, probably for the bowl game. Look, he was suspended in week 3 and 4 of this year because he had ties to Connor Stallions. It puts Michigan now in a bad spot. A lot of the top tier coaches are signed. So I don't know what they're going to do. Could they reach out to Brian Kelly? Could they reach out to John Gruden? It'll be interesting to see what Michigan does, where they turn to. Because like I said, a lot of the coaches that were out there, they're gone. So I have no idea what the hell they're going to do. Really, really a bad spot for U of M, Michigan. So we'll see. Have to keep an eye on this, on where they go, who they hire. Influx situation. Some of the top news and notes from around the world in sports. Pete Alonso has left the Mets. He is finalizing a 5-year, $155 million deal with the Orioles by Espen News Services. Reading over some of it here. So yeah, that's what we know. 5-year, $155 million deal. The Orioles really struggled last year. Sorry, a little bit of an itch. I hate itching. I don't know what it does for the Orioles, to be honest with you. Again, they struggled in every way last year after having back-to-back good seasons. Does it bolster their lineup? Obviously. Again, how much improvement and pay dividends, we'll have to see. The NBA has come up with some stupid ass decisions over the last few years. It's reported by Dave McManaman, ESPN. Lakers to use standard court for the NBA Cup quarterfinal, the NBA Cup. Again, another dumbass. It's just a dumbass idea. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't know the logistics behind it. I don't know the logic behind it. I don't care if the Lakers are going to use a standard court for whatever the hell this is, the NBA Cup quarterfinal. I don't care. Luka Doncic said the court they were using was dangerous to play on. Blah 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 blah. Doesn't make any sense. It's just dumb. NCAA. Ex-San Francisco player shared info with bettor. This is reported by David Purdom, ESPN. The NCAA today accused the former men's basketball player at the University of San Francisco of knowingly sharing information about his statistics in upcoming games with a player at a different school who was betting on his stats on daily fantasy sites. Marcus Williams, a guard who played for San Francisco from 2022 to 2025, was ruled ineligible after the NCAA found that he provided information to former Fresno State player Michael Robinson ahead of at least 9 games during last year's season. Williams shared information with Robinson about his points, 3-pointers made, rebounds, and assists, according to the NCAA, which found text messages between the two after imaging Robinson's phone. In each instance, Williams directed Robinson to take the over on his statistics, according to the NCAA. Paulo Zamorano, Williams' agent, said his client has never bet on a college basketball game or his own performance. Again, with FanDuel and DraftKings and all these wagering sites, books, you'll see more and more of this. Big Brother is watching, and he's watching hard. And if they think that they can get away with it, think again. More and more of this stuff is going to come out. It's only going to get worse. Basketball, football, NHL, Major League Baseball. You'll see more and more of it. And then what do they do? How are you going to control it? I don't know. It's reported by Stephen Holder, ESPN. Phillip Rivers is excited, but Colts quarterback situation still fluid. Again, they signed Rivers to the practice squad. Rivers said he saw Jones's injury live on the TV. Again, he hasn't played a football game in 5 years. Okay. What's Phillip going to do if they don't go at Riley Leonard? Does this make them better for the playoff push? I don't know. If he even starts. And if he does start, he'll get killed. What kind of condition is he in? Can he run? He's never been a runner at all. He's been a pocket passer most of his career. So whether he starts or not, I don't know. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. This is reported by Caitlin Collar, ESPN. Refs union collective bargaining agreement is set to expire. NFL outlines priorities. The league has been engaged in bargaining with the NFLRA to extend the current agreement since December of 2024, and to date, those discussions have been unsuccessful. And I'm going to go through these. Among the changes the league is bargaining for, rewarding performance so that only high performing game officials share in the year end bonus period. More flexibility in postseason assignments. The current CBA weighs seniority as a factor in determining postseason assignments. The league believes the best performing officials should be on the field during the postseason. No shit. A longer probationary period to assess new officials and to gain flexibility in removing those who are underperforming. Increased training and development for probationary and low performing officials. Shortening the dead period when the league cannot contact the officials, which currently lasts from the Super Bowl until May 15th. Creating a practice squad. The league says it is considering increasing the number of game officials to develop a deeper bench. Okay. I think one of these in here should be that referees, umpires, they should have 2010 vision. They should have pilot's vision, not 2020. It should be 2010 vision. Because most officials today are blind. And I would say this, just watching sports in general. If I were a referee, I wouldn't call anything unless it's so egregious that I had to call it. But that's just me. Receiver, defensive backhand checking each other, going down the field. That's fine. One or the other pushes off, and it's obvious, you call it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers have activated wide receivers Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan from IR, reported by Jenna Lane on ESPN. So we'll see in what capacity they use them for the playoff push. It's a welcome sight for Baker Mayfield, obviously. So anywho, 7:13 here on the East Coast. That would be 4:13 Pacific Coast time. Jump to the NBA, shall we? Well, actually, other NFL news. Again, Jaden Daniels will not be playing this week because of the elbow injury. Travis Kelce said he's stumped trying to find a fix for his performance. I think the whole Kansas City Chiefs team is looking to fix the problem, and I'll ask Price Carter when he comes on. Cleveland Browns Shador Sanders says he is focused on the Bears, nothing else. Again, I would proceed with caution. Yes, he had a good game against the Titans, but it was the fucking Titans, man. Now, if he puts a string of performances together the rest of the year like he did last week, then I will say, okay, we might have something here. But let's pump the brakes. Sirianni said that the possibility of benching Jalen Hurts is ridiculous. Some other reports have come out that said that there are some insiders that think the Eagles are going to draft a quarterback. It's all blah, 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 blah bullshit. And if that happens, he will find himself in the same situation as Carson Wentz 5 years ago. But until it happens, I don't put any credence into it. Let's go to the NBA, shall we? Let's go to scores from yesterday. It's a light slate yesterday and today. The Magic beat the Heat yesterday, 117 to 108. The Heat, your leading scorer was Norman Powell with 21 points. For the Magic, leading scorer was Desmond Bain, 37 points. Wendell Carter Jr. added 10 boards. He is quietly having a decent season, especially on the boards. The Knicks beat the Raptors 117 to 101. For the Knicks, your leading scorer was Jalen Brunson with 35. Karl Anthony Towns added 16 boards. For Toronto, leading scorer was Brandon Ingram with 31 points. On the slate today for the NBA at 7:30, it's the Suns at the Thunder, Spurs at the Lakers. This is games for the NBA Cup. Stupid idea. Dumbass idea. Doesn't make any sense idea. Let me go to the NHL. Scores from yesterday. Heavy slate yesterday in the NHL. The Lightning all over the Canadiens 6-1. Devils beat the Senators 4-3. Final in a shootout, the Islanders over the Golden Knights 5-4. Flyers over the Sharks 4-1. Ducks in a shootout over the Penguins 4-3. Hurricanes over the Blue Jackets 4-1. The Brewers over the Blue Wings 5-2. Stars over the Jets 4-3. Final in OT, the Sabres over the Oilers 4-3. Final in a shootout, the Preds upset over the Avalanche 4-3. Today, light slate, 7:30 p.m. The Rangers at my Blackhawks, who have tailed off a little bit. 8:30 p.m. Red Wings at the Flames. 9 p.m. Panthers at the Mammoth. 10 p.m. Kings at the Kraken. So you caught up on the NHL action. Champions League continue today. Scores from today: Ajax Amsterdam beat FK Karabag 4-2. FC Copenhagen beat Villarreal 3-2. Athletic Club and Paris Saint-Germain 0-0 draw. Bayern Leverkusen Newcastle 2-2 draw. Benfica over Napoli 2-0. Borussia Dortmund and Bodo Glimt 2-2 draw. Arsenal beat Club Brugge 3-0. Juventus over Paphos 2-0. And Man City, a big win over Real Madrid 2-1. The Premier League again taking place this week. We're into December. Let's go to this week's fixture, shall we? I will not have a show tomorrow, by the way. Don't forget on Friday here on the Cole County Entertainment Network, I will be live 5 to 8 p.m. Friday at Goose's Monte Cristo Lounge at Tobacconist. College football playoff special and bowl special. Breaking it all down for you, making my picks. Thanks to Goose for allowing me to use his venue. On Saturday, Chelsea will host Everton, Liverpool will host Brighton, Burnley will host Fulham, Arsenal hosts Wolverhampton. I will go Chelsea 1, Everton 0. Liverpool and Brighton, I will go 2-2 draw. Burnley and Fulham, I will go 1-1 draw. And Arsenal Wolverhampton, Arsenal 3, Wolverhampton 0. That is my prediction. On Sunday, Crystal Palace hosting Man City, Nottingham Forest hosting Tottenham, Sunderland hosting Newcastle, West Ham hosting Villa, Brentford hosting Leeds. The Crystal Man City, I will go Man City 2, Crystal Palace 1. Tottenham, Nottingham Forest. I will go Tottenham 2, Nottingham Forest 1. Sunderland and Newcastle. I will go 1-1 draw with Sunderland. West Ham hosting Villa. I'm going to go Villa 3, West Ham 1. And Brentford at Leeds. I'm going to go Brentford 1, Leeds Zippo. There you have it. NCAA men's basketball. Top 20 scorers from yesterday. Number 2, Michigan beat Villanova 89-61. Number 5, UConn beat number 18, Florida for the defending champions. BYU came back and beat Clemson 67-64. Number 13, Illinois 88, Ohio State 80. And number 24, Virginia beat Maryland Eastern Shores 84-60. Top 25 slate tonight. Number 6, Purdue right now over Minnesota in the first time. At 8 o'clock, Jackson State at number 7, Houston. And at 9 p.m., Big Ten battle. Wisconsin is at number 23, Nebraska. Let's jump to the women's. Top 25 scores from yesterday. Number 13, Baylor hammered Alabama State 90-36. And number 24, Nebraska stays undefeated. They hammer Omaha 87-35. On the slate this evening, top 25. Right now in the third, number 7, Maryland's up on Delaware State 63-16. Jimmy V Women's Classic presented by Modelo. Right now in the first, number 11 Iowa leads number 10 Iowa State 23-19. 7:30, number 2 Texas at UT Rio Grande Valley. And at 9 o'clock, ACC, number 22 Louisville battles Ball State. Oh, let's do this. Let's do this. Tomorrow in men's college basketball, Iowa's at number 4 Iowa State. This is men's. And then on Friday, the only top 25 action is Texas is at number 5 UConn. Weekend action has a plethora of matchups with college football now into the bowl season. Saturday is going to be the colleges on both men's and women's. We go to women's tomorrow. Northern Kentucky is at number 21 Ohio State. Little Rock's at number 9 Oklahoma. Morehead State is at number 19 Notre Dame. And then the women on the weekend, again, a plethora of top 25 action. So check that out. Again, coming up at 7:30, Price Carter will be on, talk Kansas City Chiefs. Let me jump to some college football news. Again, Sharon Moore fired by Michigan after an inappropriate relationship with a staffer. That's all we know. I'm sure more and more will come out. Again, it puts Michigan in a tough spot because a lot of the major coaches are already at their respective schools. It will not shock me if Michigan reaches out to Brian Kelly if they reach out to John Gruden. Maybe they could reach out to Ed Orgeron. But it'll be interesting to see where they go. Bad news for the Indiana Hoosiers going into the playoffs. Defensive end Stephen Daly, he is out with an injury. Cignetti today called the injury serious, probably done for the season. Big part of that defense, so that's a big blow. We'll see how big of a blow it is when it comes to whoever they play in the college football playoff. Tennessee is targeting Penn State's Jim Knowles as their next defensive coordinator. See how much of difference that makes. This is interesting. Georgia and Louisville have canceled their series ahead of the SEC schedule release. The series was supposed to start in 2026, next year, obviously. Georgia also said that NC State agreed to cancel its home and home series for the 2033 and 2034 seasons. Interesting. So we'll see what some of these schedules look like in the next couple of years. The United States Senate has passed a bill to help stadiums combat drones. I did not know that that was a problem, but I guess it is. It seems like everybody has a drone now. Drone for everything. It's amazing, isn't it? We're getting into Terminator shit with all this technology. Just if AI becomes self-aware, we're all fucked. The Big Ten's commissioner Brett Yormark calls out Notre Dame's Pete Bavacqua. Said that Notre Dame's actions are egregious. Reported by Dave Wilson, ESPN. Yormark, who was speaking at the Sports Business Journal's Intercollegiate Athletics Forum, did you get all that? On Tuesday, said Bavacqua is totally out of bounds in his approach, and if he was in the room, I'd tell him the same thing. Okay. He said, I think his behavior has been egregious. It's been egregious going after Jim Phillips when they saved Notre Dame during COVID. The chair said that as Notre Dame and Miami got closer together, head to head would be a factor. Okay. Mr. Yormark, I will say this. You need to clam it up too. BYU lost, they came closer together, and head to head made a difference in that decision. Well, Mr. Yormark, the committee said that the head to head never came into play and you lost to Texas Tech again. And that's bullshit. I don't blame, I'm not a Notre Dame fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't blame them for what they're doing. And again, had they accepted a bowl invitation to, let's just say, a fantastic bowl, you didn't know if Jeremiah Love was going to be there. You don't know if some of the pieces to the puzzle for that team were going to play in the bowl game. Suppose they play in a bowl game against someone fantastic, and that said team has all their pieces. The committee should have said that the head-to-head between Miami and Notre Dame was balanced. not the last weekend of the season when after the title games were. Alabama has 3 losses. They got their ass kicked by Florida State, yet they're still in. That makes no sense to me. You go take a look at Alabama's schedule. I'll pull it up right now. And this is what gets in my craw. You got your ass kicked by Florida State. You beat Louisiana Monroe 73-0. There's a real big win. You beat Wisconsin 38-14. Wisconsin stinks. At Georgia, okay, you beat Georgia on the road. Whoop-de-doo, you won by a field goal. You handled Vanderbilt, okay, nice win. You beat Missouri by a field goal, okay, nice win. Okay, you hammered Tennessee. Tennessee's not what they have been. At South Carolina had you on the ropes. They came back. You came back to win. All right, you handled LSU, but you lost to Oklahoma on the road again. You hammered Eastern Illinois. Ooh, there's a huge win. You beat Auburn. Auburn had you on the ropes. And then you got your ass kicked by Georgia in the SEC title game. BYU lost to Texas Tech twice in convincing fashion, but still all in all. I see him in the green room, Mr. Price Carter. Before I bring him on, though, I've got to give a proper. Okay, when it's played at Florida State. But when it's played at my Chiefs game, I like it. Not down in Florida State, though. Let's bring him on. That's Mr. Price Carter. Price, thanks for joining the program.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. Great to talk to you with Ryan.
Thank you, sir. Okay, let's just get into it. Price, I put a lot of onus on Brett Veach. Look, they got their butts kicked in the Super Bowl. He tried to upgrade in the offensive line. But just as a fan standing back, the running backs are pedestrian. Pacheco hasn't been same since he got hurt a couple years ago. Kareem Hunt is serviceable. I look at the receivers. There's not a true number one. Travis Kelce's older. The defense is getting older. You're in the thick of it out there with Kansas City. What say you about how they're going to turn this around?
Yeah, it's tough because I think if you were to ask anybody who covers the team or a fan who follows the team closely, I don't think that there is one answer, right? And I think part of is there one answer, is there not one answer? It goes back to last year too, where Chiefs fans and a lot of us who cover the team thought, well, the reason why they lost in the Super Bowl is because they couldn't block. And honestly, as funny as maybe not as funny, as ironic as it is, the offensive line has been the one thing that's been pretty consistent. Now they're hurt right now, but there's not many teams that can survive 3 or 4 tackle injuries. That's just tough, you know. Kingsley Suamataia has been above expectation at guard. That was a big question coming into the year. They get Trey Smith done, Creed Humphrey. Those guys are who they are supposed to be. And Juwan Taylor has never been fantastic because of the penalties, because of the dumb stuff that he does. But he's a good player when he's on the field. And Josh Simmons and Jalen Moore have both worked out. It's just everything else hasn't quite. And, would they have been better if Josh Simmons was there through the middle part of the season? I think so. I do think that just looking at the way that they treated Josh Simmons, they treated Josh Simmons like they treated Mitchell Schwartz or Eric Fisher, where they left him on an island and he was playing some big boy football. If you're talking about personnel, what's one of the bright spots this year, it has to be Josh Simmons, even with the injury, even with him taking some time away from the team. But yeah, I think there's a lot of other things to look at. I think that they really whistled by some of their personnel issues, thinking that some players would get better. Some players would take another step. And instead, you were telling yourself, well, Mike Dana's a solid player. Charles Omenihu, he's a full year removed from that ACL injury. Now he's going to revert back to that guy that we saw pre-ACL, a better version of himself. A full offseason for Kareem Hunt. And, let's be real too. I do think that a part of this pass rush plan was for Omar Norman Lott, who I liked what I saw from him, but he got hurt. But also, like, you're trading for Derek Nottie. You're playing a guy who got released from the worst defense in the NFL, starter level snaps along the interior in Mike Pennell. So there are some real questions as to what the plan was there. And I think one thing that I think might be underrated is I'm not sure that they fully calculated how all these pieces work together with Hollywood Brown, with Tyquan Thornton, with Rashee Rice. I cannot blame anyone who looks at the Chiefs offense and goes, well, what's the problem? Look at all this talent. There are a lot of really talented players, but I'm not sure that they're being utilized in their best roles. And I'm not sure that all those guys fit together. I'm not sure that it's possible to use Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy in their best roles and them all be on the same at the field at the same time, and then factoring in Travis Kelce. So to answer your question, how does this get fixed? I'll be honest. I think when I look at it, one of the biggest things that I think is an area of improvement for this team, something they've really got to consider, is bringing in some outside voices to the team, especially offensive scheme-wise. There are personnel concerns, and those will be addressed, and they're poised to have a top 15 pick for the first time in I can remember, honestly, since they picked Patrick Mahomes, and they had to trade up to get that pick. So I think bringing an outside voice, someone who can stop making the scheme about Patrick Mahomes being an MVP, because it feels right now if Patrick Mahomes isn't at his best, because, we can find clips of like, oh, that throw was a little bit behind him. Oh, that throw, he probably should have just thrown that away. But what is the scheme doing to make things easier for him? There is zero threat of a run game. Teams do not care if the Chiefs run the ball on them. There is no – they are among the league leaders in RPOs, which was something that was good 3 or 4 years ago. But not only do they lead the league in RPO – they're second, not first, but they're second in the league in RPOs. But not only that, they pass the ball at over a 65% rate on RPOs. So what's the run threat there? And then, oh, by the way, if you do hand it to Kareem Hunt, no one cares. They are towards the bottom. There's only 2 teams that have run less under center runs and plays this season than the Chiefs, and that's the Commanders and then the Cardinals until they got Jacoby Brissett. And now they're ticking up because Jacoby Brissett's more of a traditional. Well, both those quarterbacks, Jay Daniels and Kyler Murray, are very, very different. So I think that would be my thing that would point to, like, what can we do to maximize this game? And then, this team needs to have a great draft. They're going to have to clear a lot of cap space. So there's a lot of work to be done.
I said before the season started, Price, and everybody called me crazy. I said, Chiefs aren't making the playoffs this year. And people thought I was crazy. And they're like, why? And I said, look, they upgraded on the offensive line, but they're trying to run it back with everybody else. And it's a Super Bowl hangover. And again, as much as it's a passing league, if you can't run the football in December and January, you ain't making it to February. You're not making the playoffs if you can't run the football in November and December. And look, just like you said, if teams don't respect your run game, what are they going to do? They're going to drop 7. They're going to drop 8. Take what you do best. When Patrick feels like he has to do too much, you get a game like the other night. And he can't do it all by himself. And I've been a big proponent of, I don't care if you run the ball 30 times for 90 yards. You're still running the football. It opens up everything else. And again, I don't know what it is. Price, at times they look disinterested. They look defeated. They look deflated. I thought if they could beat Houston at home, maybe they could make a sort of a run, finish 11-6, 10-7, somewhere in there. But look, Price, too many organizations have caught up. Jacksonville's playing well. Houston's back on track. You got the Broncos. You got the Chargers who just beat the Eagles. Buffalo's in the mix. New England East. Safe to say, even if they run the table and finish 10-7, they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be really tough. If they do make the playoffs, it essentially takes the Chargers losing out and the Colts losing out. Which, by the way, their schedules are very, very tough, and we'll see what 44-year-old Phillip Rivers has in the tank for the Colts. But at the end of the day, it might be better for this team and for this organization long term to have the forced change of we missed the playoffs with prime Patrick Mahomes. What the hell happened here? And
Mhm.
almost all of the advanced analytics still really like this team as far as DVOA, EPA per play, even just standard points per game allowed, points scored, those type of things. They're top 10, top 15 in almost all those metrics. They're a top 6 team in DVOA. But here's the thing, and I really think that this is what embodies what the struggle is with this team. And it is no one is able to step up and make a play like they have been able to in the past. And that is the thing that it's hard because you look at the players, you look at the team, you look at everything they've done in the past, and there is always someone there to step up and make the play. It's a game of inches. And I do truly think that they've lost their advantage in the margins of these games. We saw last year, right? Their margin for error between being 15-2 and maybe 12-5 was very, very thin. That gap keeps closing, and now they're not making the plays. If you ask me what was the biggest problem with the Chiefs, I wouldn't be able to tell you because some weeks it's the defense against the Cowboys and Thanksgiving. The Chiefs offense, basically the only time the Chiefs offense didn't score in that game is when they had penalties set them back. Patrick Mahomes throws 4 touchdowns over 300 yards. And then this week, it's the Chiefs offense, and they had a tough task ahead of them with the Texans, but also like, hey, if they catch one of the 7 or 8 drops they have in that game, there's still a pretty good chance they miss. And then, oh, by the way, Harrison Butker misses a kick. You've got Andy Reid going for a wildly aggressive 4th down when his defense was pitching a shutout in the second half because the kicker missed a kick. You know, like all those things, it's just everything. Harrison Butker hasn't been himself. The special teams are one of the most penalized units in the league. They get 0 impact on returns. The defense can't generate a pass rush without bringing extra pressure. The defense struggles to cover guys out of the slot because they continue to use Trent McDuffie on the outside instead of kicking him inside where he's best because they signed Christian Fulton, which is an absolute bust of a signing. And for some reason, Mo Williams struggles to find the field. It's all of it. And that's the thing that's hard is that I think sometimes like the Bucs Super Bowl, like again, going back to, was it one thing? It wasn't one thing. There was a lot of things that needed adjusted. And now maybe this will spur some change to realize like, hey, we do really need to take a harder look at this. And I will say this team, like, I think this team is at its best when it's had to make those changes. Like some of the most dramatic changes we see, they lose in overtime of the AFC Championship game against Tom Brady. They fire the defensive coordinator, Bob Sutton. They bring in Steve Spagnuolo, bring in a whole new staff. They lose the AFC Championship against the Bengals. That year, they bring Liam Cohen in, who was at Kentucky at the time, to interview him as an offensive coordinator. They end up bringing in Matt Nagy after he gets fired by the Bears, promote him to like a QB role, and still have Mike Kafka in the building and Eric Bieniemy. Mike Kafka could potentially be free. I would love to see more change than that, right? Like, I just thinking, I heard you talking about college football, like Andy Kotelnicki. He's the offensive coordinator for Penn State. He designs a hell of a run game back when he was at KU with Lance Leipold and has done a nice job with very subpar quarterback play at Penn State. You know, can you bring a guy in like that to help impact the game? And then ultimately, like, there is a bunch of like number 6 and 7 hitters, using a baseball reference, on that offense. Travis Kelce isn't 2022 Travis Kelce. He's still a very good tight end, but he no one is scared of him anymore. No one is afraid of Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown. Those guys can impact a game in certain ways, but there's also certain ways that you can limit them. There is no guy in that offense anymore that it doesn't matter what you do, he's just going to get his. And for the longest time, teams came into Kansas City and go, hey, if we can shut down Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, we got a chance in this game. And then, it's the third quarter, and they went for 150 and 2 touchdowns on you. Because no plan survives battle. No one, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And those guys put the fear of God in people. And that doesn't exist anymore. And that all those things kind of culminate to be, they just keep coming up short. And I think a lot of people will point to the 1-score losses and be like, oh, this is just regression to the mean. Boy, math is a bitch, isn't it? And in reality, a lot of those 1-score games they made tight at the end. Keep in mind, they lost more than a 1-score to the Texans. The Bills, the Chargers, and a couple other games, they kind of snuck through the back door to make it a 1-score game. Now, I will say their defense had a chance to get off the field against the Bills, to get off the field against the Chargers, to get off the field against the Cowboys, and they couldn't. And those teams basically kneeled the clock out on the Chiefs. But at the end of the day, like, they've got to really take a look at what they're doing talent-wise and what they're doing scheme-wise to maximize the players that are here.
Before I get you out of here, and again, thanks for joining the program. Look, Andy Reid and Travis Kelce are not going to want to go out like this. Uh, what's your gut feeling on Andy Reid and Travis Kelce? Do they probably? Travis is probably going to consult his brother. I know Andy doesn't want to go out like this. So, what's your gut feeling on both of them coming back next year?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The number one person that Travis is going to talk to is Jason. And I do think it's emblematic a little bit of the fact that Jason left the Eagles at not the most beautiful time, right? He wasn't hosting the Lombardi or hugging his brother at the 50-yard line of the Super Bowl. He was walking into dejected Eagles locker room after they basically crumbled at the end of the season against the Buccaneers. Travis and Jason have very different lives off the football field, right? And Jason's got young kids, but they both are pursuing media careers. Kylie's pretty famous, Jason's wife, not quite as famous as Travis's future wife. I think I know for a fact, just talking to some people in and around Travis personally, that Travis really put in a ton of work this offseason. And it shows with the way he's played, his body, and that type of stuff. But I also know some people who were in the locker room this past weekend and said they've never seen, like, they felt that was the most depressed locker room they've ever been in. And that people like who were there when the Royals lost Game 7 of the World Series with the runner on third base said this was bleaker. And Kelce was just sitting there with a towel over his head with his uniform still on, like a senior in high school, not want to take the jersey off for the final time. And I think ultimately Travis Kelce could play another couple of years. He owns pretty much every record that the Chiefs have, and there's a couple of guys in front of him all time that he would have to work pretty hard to catch. I think ultimately he will probably decide that as hard as he worked and how much he put in the time, that maybe he doesn't want to work that hard to still come up short. Because at the end of the day, 3 of Patrick Mahomes' interceptions came directly off the hands of Travis Kelce. And why are those turning into interceptions? Is it because he's just got bad luck and he's dropping the ball? Well, partially. It's also because there's someone right next to him because he can't separate. And back in 2014, 15, 16, Travis Kelce getting wide ass open. And that just doesn't exist anymore. There's always someone right there beside him. Andy Reid's a little bit tougher because Andy Reid wears a facade. He is not, there's a version of Andy Reid that you and I and most people who are in the media have no idea what he's like because he is so stoic and because he is just so everything's the same. Andy Reid will. I do think that Andy Reid is chasing something. I think that he's chasing Shula and Belichick, and he knows that now is the time to make hay. He stacked up a lot of those wins with Alex Smith and other quarterbacks, McNabb and Foles and etc. And now's the time to go. But I also think it's a lot easier to go when things are going great. So hopefully they take this offseason and reset. Would love to see him, as I said, bring someone onto the staff to try to challenge and help him. And I also wonder what the exit strategy looks like too. And this is where it goes beyond them. It goes beyond Brett Veach even. Like, what does Clark Hunt want to do? Like, Clark Hunt got really aggressive to get Andy Reid in here. Basically, Andy Reid was on a plane to go to the Cardinals, and the assumption was he was going to get that job. And Clark Hunt did not let him off that tarmac without getting him to be at the Kansas City Chiefs next coach. Is there a succession plan in place? Is that Matt Nagy? Is it Steve Spagnuolo, who was once a head coach? Is it someone who's not in the building? Like, what about Cliff Kingsbury? He's someone that has close ties to Patrick Mahomes. He was a head coach at one point. Is it someone we're not even, we don't even know about yet? I think that's interesting because that question is probably one of the most important questions this organization has to ask is what's after Andy Reid, because Andy Reid is the way, the truth, and the light in that building. Brett Veach is his guy. There's nobody on that roster that Andy Reid didn't get some form of approval that is there. So at the end of the day, that's going to be huge. And I think it's on Clark Hunt, it's on Brett Veach, it's on Steve Spagnuolo, those guys to push Andy to say, we got to keep reinventing ourselves. This is not time to just keep running the same stuff out there. It's time to reinvent ourselves to get back to where we want to be.
As far as I'm concerned, in the offseason, I mean, Price, they need a solid number one running back. They need to bring in a solid one receiver to free up the other guys. I don't know what they're going to do with Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. I have no idea. The defense still seems to be playing well at a good level, but some changes are going to need to be made on the offensive side of the football because Look, last year they did it with smoke and mirrors. They won all those close games, and then they came up against the Eagles, who were just a juggernaut, and they got taken behind the woodshed. And again, like you said, this year they don't fear Kansas City anymore. They don't fear going into Arrowhead. There's no stigma to that anymore. And again, and I'll say it till the day I die, you can't run a football and teams don't respect it. They're just going to rush four. And every game that I've watched this year, for the most part, that's what teams have done defensively against them, because they just do not respect this run game. I know statistically wise, Kansas City's somewhere in the middle of the pack running the football, but the games that I've watched, and I've watched most of them, when the money's on the line, Bryce, they can't run the football. And when Patrick feels like he has to do too much, and again, the 3 interceptions might not have been his fault because of the drops, but still, all in all, when he feels like he has to do too much, this is when this team gets in trouble.
Oh yeah, for sure. And again, like I always say, like when Chiefs fans are critical of Patrick Mahomes, I just say like, hey, look, if your plan involves your quarterback being damn near perfect, it's a bad plan. Because I think that that's not the end goal. And if you're trying to ask your quarterback to be perfect, you're going to be disappointed because there's just not many guys who can operate at that level game after game, week after week. And then that's not even factoring in other people letting them down, like your receivers who are dropping balls, pass protection, players get hurt, etc. And the thing that's hard here is like the last couple of years, they really have kind of pushed the pedal to the floor with trying to do this 3P and try to keep this window open. There's a lot of questions that have to be answered this offseason. There's that 2022 draft class that really kept the window open here for the Chiefs for so long after trading Tyreek Hill. That class is up as far as control goes. Leo Chanel, Brian Cook, Jalen Watson, Trent McDuffie, they can still have control of via the tag, which, I mean, they can tag any of those guys. But they've got some real questions to answer. You're planning on cutting Juwan Taylor. That's huge, right? Like that's Jalen Moore has looked promising. You said Pole played a little bit. He looked promising, but I'm not convinced that they have just the absolute answer at right tackle solved right now. And you mentioned the concerns about running back and wide receiver. Like that's why I just keep coming back to, and by the way, like they only have 6 picks and they only have 2 picks or 3 picks on day 3, a 4th and 2/5. That's why I keep coming back to, like, are you going to pay Trent McDuffie close to $30 million? Is he Derek Stingley? Is he Sauce Gardner? I don't think he is. I think he's one step down from that. He's been an all-pro playing on the outside. He's been an all-pro on the inside. But he seems persistent on playing on the outside. This team has replaced corners at a high level. Do you tag and trade McDuffie? Can you get 2 second-round picks for him? Can you get a low first? That's something you have to consider because of the state of this roster and the guys that they have to figure out. Like, so there's some real questions. And I don't necessarily think that they need to go big swinging at wide receiver or running back. Like, I know a lot of people would love to see Jeremiah Love in Kansas City. I just think like their running back position can't be the worst in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is 3rd in the league in rushing for quarterbacks. I never thought that would come. He's already set a career high in rushing in a season. That's why their offense is so efficient, and some of the numbers like them because of how efficient and like dynamic he is as a scrambler. But that also shouldn't be the plan. You've seen him take way more hits than you want to this year. They just need to get competence. If they can get someone like obviously I got a bunch of Nebraska gear behind me, like an Emmett Johnson from Nebraska or Jadarian Price. They don't have to go crazy swinging at the running back position this offseason. And I just think how frustrating it is that Elijah Mitchell is just sitting there on the bench, and he got basically the same deal that Rico Dowdle got, that Javonte Williams got. And both those guys had great seasons. They just chose wrong. And the 2025 free agency is part of the problem. You brought in Christian Fulton with the idea of McDuffie's going to move back inside, and hey, we just pro slot corner where Shamari Connor was getting toasted all last year, and we upgraded our outside corner spot and brought in depth with Noel Williams. And that's failed miserably. And Jalen Moore's worked out okay. And then, Isaiah Pacheco hasn't bounced back. So there's a lot of questions to be answered. I really think, again, that's why I keep coming back to the idea of like reinventing themselves is something that makes sense. Not only because you need to change out the personnel and you want to match your scheme to your personnel, but also where can you gain advantages? Where can you use Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice in their best roles? Where can you use those guys? And their inability to beat man coverage has been puzzling, and it's something that they've struggled with all season.
Mhm.
They don't have to go out and get some high level receiver. I don't have to go make a huge trade. Like, can they just go sign like Juwan Jennings to a Josh Palmer like deal? He's a guy who can do all those things, all those dirty work things, and just bring competence to the position. And I think that's what they need. They are not talentless. They are not devoid. And we've not seen a single thing from Jalen Royals, who's a guy that I liked out of Utah State, who's basically just got a red shirt this year. But enough with the Juju Smith-Schuster, enough with the Derek Nottie and Mike Pennell, and Mike Edwards is out there again. Like, they've got to take away some of these toys. Nick Bolton's going to be on the field, but hey, like, the season is damn well over. Let's start seeing Jeff Bassa on the field. Let's start and see Jalen Royals. Let's see what Brashard Smith looks like if he can get 10, 15 carries in a game, because those are all questions that are going to need to be answered next year.
I'm glad you said something because it will transition to my final thing, and then we'll get out of here. If the Chiefs lose to the Chargers and they're sitting at 6-8, are you shutting everybody down the last 3 weeks of the season?
I would, but no one wants to do that. Like, I don't think Patrick Mahomes. I would, if they lose to the Chargers, Patrick Mahomes would be done for the year. But I know that that's not in people's spirit. That's not what people want. They want to have, fight and fight till the very end. But if he gets hurt, an ACL injury or something, he's already putting a heating pad on his knee and stuff, that would bleed into next season. And it does you no good to win these games. You're not going to get a fourth place schedule because the Raiders are just absolutely miserable. But maintain that third place schedule. Try to get a top 15 pick and maximize that capital, right? And honestly, it would probably be wise for him to try to trade down. I'm already knee deep in draft analysts for this season. I can tell you there's not going to be a lot of people who want to trade up in this class unless it's for a quarterback. And it's probably Mendoza. I don't think Simpson's coming out. Maybe Dante Moore will come out now that the OC is left there from Oregon, but it's not a sure thing, right? So I would shut them down, and I would ask Kelsey if he's got an idea of what he's doing, if he wants to play out the string or if he wants to sit down. If he's planning on coming back next year, maybe you do sit him and just try to keep him as fresh as possible. If he wants to play out the string and, try to just, get some stats in there, we'll throw you a bunch of tunnel screens, buddy, of whatever you want, and let Gardner Minshew earn his paycheck. And I wouldn't try to bring Josh Simmons back. I wouldn't try to bring back I wouldn't try to bring back Trent McDuffie, who's, was limited today in practice because he might be a trade asset, and he's a lot less valuable to you if he's got some alien injury.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Price Carter at Price Carter on the X, draft analyst, podcast host at Arrowhead Addict, Chiefs Film at FTN Fantasy, hashtag GBR. Price, enjoy the rest of the season. I'm not confident in whatsoever. I don't think they're going to beat the Chargers. I just think it's a lost season, and
I think they'll eke one out against the Chargers, but that's just because of like what the situation is. You've got a West Coast team coming East Coast for a noon kick after playing an overtime Monday Night Football game where they allowed one of the highest pressure rates of any team has, with a quarterback who has a surgically repaired left hand. I think that a lot of those things are lining up against them to have a stinker, but I don't know if they make the playoffs. I think too many things have to happen for them, and that game going the way that it did on Monday night certainly did not help their case.
Yeah. I will have to pick your brain as we get closer and closer to the draft. Have a good holiday, my man, and enjoy the rest of the season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Price Carter. I have no faith in stock in my Chiefs, period. For the simple reason is they just don't look like the Chiefs that we're used to. And look, all good things have to come to an end eventually. Nothing lasts forever. But right now, the window is closed. Maybe if they make some off-season acquisitions through the draft, whether they can go to Patrick and say, let's restructure your contract so we can free up capital to go get some people. Like I said, Devontae Adams was available. I thought maybe they could restructure stuff that they can go out and get Devontae. Yes, Devontae's a little bit older, but he's still highly efficient when he is paired up with a great quarterback. But again, the Rams have Puka Nacua. That's 1 and 1A. You look at the Chiefs, If Devontae Adams is 1, who would be 1A? Would it be Rashee Rice? I don't know. But again, the Eagles in the Super Bowl last year gave the blueprint. You can't run a football. We know you can't run a football. We know you stink at running a football. We're just going to rush 4, and then we're going to mix it up. And then when we give you a front 4 look, we're going to blitz. And the Chiefs just aren't the Chiefs. So thanks for Price Carter for coming on. Excellent information there. I think I'm going to end it there. Enjoy this weekend's festivities, by the way. The bowl season kicks off this Saturday. Again, join me right here on the Cole County Entertainment Network on Friday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I will be in Limerick, Pennsylvania at Goose's Monte Cristo Lounge, a tobacconist, college football playoff and bowl special. I'll be making picks for every bowl, analyzing, make my picks for the college football playoff, and then that'll be that. So as I end each show, practice compassion, practice empathy, have passion for what you do. Hug somebody every once in a while. You might make their day. Hell, you're at a convenience store, open the door for somebody and be polite. You might make their day. You might give them a pick-me-up. Tell somebody you love them. You might not get a second opportunity. And for Christ's sake, if you see somebody struggling in whatever fashion, ask questions, inquire. You might not just be saving a life. You might be saving multiple lives. So, again, have a great evening, everybody. Enjoy the NBA, enjoy the NHL, whatever is your poison. There's only one thing left to do, and that's for Dandy Don to take me out.
Turn out the lights, the party's over. They say that all good things must end. Call it a night, the party's over. And tomorrow and next year starts the same old thing again.